which is the CTO, CIO discussion, and it's my pleasure to introduce the distinguished contributors today. So, serving as moderator, we have Mr. Mohamed, Irfan, Peeran. So please come on up here, welcome. Irfan is the Managing Director at VDart, who is also one of our sponsors for today's event, so thank you, Irfan. He is a seasoned transformational and servant leader, a strategic thinker, backed by over 25 years of diverse international professional experience directing and managing people, processes, technology, programs, and business, with a passion and knack for solving critical business and technical problems effectively and efficiently through collaboration. He leads the growth strategy and execution, which includes mergers and acquisitions, business development and sales, and technology partnerships. Welcome, Irfan.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction.
And now for our panelists. First, we have Mr. Bharath, Prabhakaran. I hope I said that right. Good enough? Okay. Bharath is the Deputy Chief Information Officer and also the Associate Vice Chancellor for Enterprise Applications for the University of North Texas System. As Deputy CIO, Bharath is a senior ranking staff member reporting to CIO Chris McCoy, where he advises and assists the formulation of information technology strategies, policies, and programs. Bharath provides executive IT leadership, decision-making, and oversight as assigned by CIO McCoy, or in his absence. As Associate Vice Chancellor for Enterprise Applications, Bharath established the vision, strategic leadership, and direction for all enterprise applications across UNT systems. Welcome, Bharath.
Thank you.
Next, we have Urvi Randhar. Urvi is the CTO for Specialty Solutions at Cardinal Health. She leads the digital transformation of the business and is responsible for creating next-generation models to empower biopharma companies and specialty physician practices to be successful in a dynamic healthcare environment. Urvi has a proven track record of leading large IT organizations which generate annual revenue exceeding $100 billion. She has been recognized with awards like Dallas Business Journal's Top 25 Women in Technology and Who's Who in Healthcare. Welcome, Urvi. Our third panelist is Ms. Juhi Chawla. Juhi is the head of IT at North Texas Transit Authority, also known as NTTA. Her responsibilities at NTTA include management of the agency's toll operations, enterprise applications and enterprise systems, information security, roadway system operations, and support. She also leads NTTA's transition to its new back office system that went live in January of 2021. Before joining NTTA, Chawla served as Vice President of Information Systems at American InfoSource in Oklahoma. Welcome, Juhi. Welcome to all our panelists. Irfan, it's all yours, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you to the U.S. Indian Chamber of Commerce for giving me and VDart an opportunity to be the moderator of this excellent panel here. I had an opportunity to briefly talk to three of my panelists here, and it's going to be really tough for me because, you know, all of them are nerds, right? And we embrace it. And one thing that's comforting is, you know, I'm from Detroit, Michigan, so most of us have some connection to Detroit. So
To Michigan.
To Michigan. So thank you again to my panelists. We'll make it keep it very interactive, right? So I really had to, you know, think about, you know, what should I ask these people, right? You know, they come from various different backgrounds in different industries. And you all are here for a reason today, and you also wanted to, you know, kind of hear what's going on in these various different industries, as well as since technology is transforming everything that we normally used to do. It's changing, and changing at a very, very rapid pace. And the change is, you know, powered again by the pandemic. So it's hitting from all various different angles. So I tried my best to come up with some questions for my panelists. So the first thing that I want to kind of start off with for all the three of you to kind of understand how the pandemic has transformed the way the work, study, and how we do business. And for many institutions, it has presented opportunities to improve processes and create a more resilient organization, right? And that can withstand for future challenges with potential to scale and also to adapt. So how has your organization met the demands of the new normal and the future? So why don't we go with you, Bharath, first?
Sure, thank you. So higher education was already in the middle of a disruption, right? So higher education, the old paradigm of 4 years in college, I mean, it's still the norm today, but there have been a lot of disruptions due to companies like Amazon or others who've shown a different model of how consumers expect things. So micro credentials or badging or certifications with corporations. So we were already in the midst of that, and then you add in the pandemic that just completely, I think, almost threw us out of whack. So disruptions from just having to pivot to complete online learning, to scale our infrastructure to meet those needs, to having staff work from home and supporting secure access to our systems, to being able to recruit and retain students, right? So the whole Zoom. As a parent of a high school senior, I'm certainly not paying full tuition for Zoom-only learning, right? So, and I'm sure many others are in the same boat. So trying to figure out the value proposition and how we can support that. I think so. Those were some of the sort of key initial disruptors. I think on an ongoing basis, trying to figure out the right work from wherever model. I think higher ed is a little behind the times in terms of remote working. So prior to UNT, I actually worked in corporate. I worked for Oracle for many years. So work from home is a norm. People work from anywhere. Higher ed has different policies around it, so just trying to refine and improve on those to meet the needs of the current hybrid workforce. I think those are some of the key challenges.
All right, thank you. How about Urvi for you at Cardinal Health?
Yeah, so Cardinal, if nobody knows what it does, it basically is a drug distribution company as their main core business, and we were right in the middle of it with the vaccines and everything, and there was so much that we needed to figure out from a channeling perspective and from a logistics perspective. I would say that there were, I think crisis creates clarity, we just heard before. There was enormous amount of work that was aligned and deployed successfully that, there was a lot to be proud about. But then on the other side, we also had challenges with, the supply chain. Everything is currently, if you see, the supply chain is a big issue. With distribution, the refrigerators and things that we use around to supply our drugs, the costs are going up to do business. But at the same time, our contracts and everything else is the same, and we are honoring that. So there is a little bit of challenge that has come up, but what it has also presented us with is a different kind of doing business and looking at other channels. We're investing in at-home, so there is a lot of work around remote care, telehealth, making sure that drugs can be delivered, and specialty drugs that, the segment that I lead, they are for oncology or really cohort of patients that are complex diseases or very expensive diseases. These drugs cost up to $600 billion overall in US annually. So there is a huge market around that, but how do you take that cost down? How do you make sure it gets affordable and you bring it out, especially taking them where the outcomes can be measured, adherence can be increased, the barriers can be removed, and bringing it home. So a lot of innovation around that.
So as a follow-up to that, Urvi, I'll come back to you in a little bit. I know we have a lot of technologists here and a lot of people who work in the supply chain industry. And so for the challenges that you're currently facing, do you see there are solutions already available and are being implemented? Or do you still see there are certain gaps, where, that will give some of the folks here, they may already have a product or a solution or an idea. So are you able to, can you shed some light on that to see, where are those gaps?
it is all over the spectrum. There are certainly software solutions that we are looking at. Is how do we look at analytics a little deeper? How do we look at data? How can we? I mean, currently, yeah, we are nowhere close to Amazon from a distribution perspective. But even from how we are looking at the back orders and making sure channeling is better, there's a lot of improvement that there is scope for. So yeah, there are solutions maybe that exist. And you talk about entrepreneurs, I mean, I'm going to take it beyond supply chain, across Cardinal, because Cardinal wants to move from a distribution to a services company. Across that, one of the big mantras we have is accelerate using the innovation that exists. Innovation doesn't have to be within our teams. Innovation we need to leverage innovation that's happening outside and across. And the other big piece with innovation, or with the services business that I'm talking about is, you look at the entrepreneurs today, they don't take a lot of capital to launch products. There are some great ideas that are out of the garage, and they are coming in 2 to 3 years to a point where they can become a real business. How do we leverage that, and how do we bring those? So we are focused around that a whole lot.
Thank you for that. And I think those who are budding entrepreneurs, there's a great point in you don't need a lot of capital to scale or to implement an idea and to scale. Right? Thank you for that. All right. Let's hear from you, Juhi. How are you? How did it transform NTTA?
So I think everyone here would agree, in the last couple of years, IT has gone from being the enabler of the business to being the business. We are the business now. One thing that pandemic did, it accelerated that thought process. It really changed. Satya Nadella said that, like, what would have probably happened in 2 years happened within 2 months. I think that's the rapid change that happened that pandemic brought. Unlike what Jason said, that he had the Veridesk to monetize with the pandemic situation, unfortunately at NTTA, we couldn't bring people to the roads, right? We couldn't tell them, please travel. However, what we did do is we took the time. A lot of our roadways, if you guys are from the area, know we have some severe congestion areas which makes maintenance very difficult. So we took the time, while the traffic was light, we took the time to maintain those part of roadways. From an IT perspective, over a piece of weekend, we went from everybody working from the office to getting about 600 laptops and deploying them over the weekend. And Monday, everybody who could work from home, their job responsibilities, being in the office. We went from IT using Teams to the entire company using Teams. So it was interesting. Innovation at a small level, but innovation indeed.
All right. So talking about innovation, I want to stay with you for this particular question. So the auto manufacturers, obviously, the consumers of your toll roads, right, the vehicles, they are transforming themselves, and they are technology companies themselves, right? And so as part of their continued growth, one of the transformation they are looking at is, like, besides selling cars, what else can they sell to the consumer, right? And so obviously they are looking at V-commerce, vehicle commerce is a big thing that's happening within the auto industry, right? And a lot of it is happening because of the innovation and the advancement in technology and the connected technology and the IoT and so on and so forth. And I know one of the things that the NTTA is, obviously from the collection perspective of the tolls, you may still be working, having those technologies where you have the transponders and so on and so forth, right? So the question to you is, how are you seeing that as a threat, like in terms of, because V-commerce is going to, futuristically it's going to, like, the car can do everything for you, right? So will the transponders move into the vehicle telematics at some point in time, or are you working with any car manufacturers, or are you, is NTTA thinking about it, and what is the strategy behind it?
Yes, yes, and yes. Lots of yeses here. If anybody you can appreciate, right, our industries are no longer silos. My project delivery folks would say we're a construction company. I can tell you we're a tolling company, but really, I'm a payments company. I'm a customer service company. I do everything. My job is to collect payments, collect revenue. Vehicles, car manufacturers, Ford is getting into that. Many more are. There is Sirius that's getting into that. They are looking for a better customer experience. Make it easy to the customer. Your car knows you. Your car has your credit card. When it's going through a toll road, why do I have to go set up my account separately with NTTA? Why can't my car pay you? I've already given it my credit card number. That's all the innovation that's happening. There's plenty more in this industry, especially with connected vehicles and autonomous vehicles. We're all looking into, it'll change how people travel. It'll change how roadways are constructed. It will change how safety happens on these roads. 10 to 12 years, transponders may go away. That's the reality of our life. There's a lot of research across the industry, and we, of course, keep up with it, and things will change.
Awesome.
Thank you for that. Talking about the consumer experience, and I wanted to ask you, Urvi, about Cardinal Health, also provider of performance and data solution for all the healthcare facilities. So could you share with us on how the data and the data sciences play a part within your organization, and what positive or negative outcomes you are seeing out of that? Because data is the next to oil. But, so how are you using this data?
First of all, let me say, artificial intelligence is overused. When you talk about everything, everybody's doing it, but that's the negative. However, it is necessary, right? It is turned out to be something that is really, really driving the impact. And I'm not just talking about artificial intelligence, I'm talking about data insights. And maybe it's any business, but especially for Cardinal, when we look at the aspects, so 80 to 85% of drugs that get administered are touched by Cardinal. So when you look at the access and the different touch points along the patient's journey, starting with the clinic, the hospital, going to the pharmacy, all of these different points, you are collecting data which can actually change, or you can nudge the behavior to change, or you can understand when to intervene to change the outcomes. So when you look at value-based care, which is what and where we are headed as a country, you see more around, no more of payment just to do a hospital visit. So payers are now coming together. You have hospital systems converging. Baylor is coming, Scotland White is coming out with their own payer network. All of this is to bring it together where the data point and a patient's journey is all together in a system, or all together where we can see what is going on. The second aspect is the biopharma industry. If you look at biopharma industry, you have drugs and research that takes on an average of 12 years to bring out a new drug, on an average of $350 million of investment to bring out a new drug. The kind of cell and gene therapy and other things that are going on to bring out that technological advancement, it's all data related. So there are so many different aspects where data and can impact, especially for Cardinal. There are a few things that we're really digging deep into. One is around, how can I make sure that the patients that are not going to be adhering to medication, we can actually predict, we can actually tell and help and reduce that. Second is around how do you look at all of these different aspects of healthcare, the journey, and bring that together so that a Cardinal patient knows, we know what is going on with the Cardinal patient. and help. So that's really the key. I know a lot of, I talked to some folks earlier. There is a lot of work in data science going on, and we have just touched the tip of the iceberg. There is a lot that we need to uncover, from biosimilars to other areas in healthcare.
So everybody, the talk of the town everywhere is like, data scientists, we need data scientists, right? So are you having any challenges finding these good data scientists?
It is funny you asked me that question. We just this week announced that we are starting a Center of Excellence for Data Science team. With that said, are we having difficulty in hiring data scientists? We are having difficulty hiring. And we are having difficulty retaining our team. So another aspect of COVID, the Great Resignation, is impacting us. Yeah, it is impacting us. People are getting offers and salaries out of California and other areas which are 30 to 50% higher, the same tech stack or better, and it is hard to be competing in that environment. So I would say yes to data scientists for sure.
So for anyone looking for a good pipeline, our Dean of Information Sciences, Kinshuk, is here. We have a very robust data science program, so please, after the event, meet him.
So you stole my thunder, Bharath. So I was going to ask Bharath you as to see, obviously, it must be quite challenging with the rapid change in technology and the curriculum, right, that you develop. So how are universities looking into this, and how are you planning on addressing this? And of course, I think you already solved Urvi's problem of hiring those data scientists. Right?
I need something.
Yeah, we have enough for everybody. So back to your point, right? I think, never let a good crisis go to waste, right? I joke about this, but I think the biggest driver of digital transformation in higher ed is COVID-19. Necessity breeds invention, right? Like they said, one day you're in the office and then everybody's going home, all students are doing remote learning, so not only did we have to beef up our, Canvas or, learning management system infrastructure, we need to have more online curriculum, right? So work on designing that. We partnered with a company called Coursera to, provide that curriculum. From an infrastructure perspective, like she said, we were, Skype for Business used sort of randomly across the board, even though we had Microsoft Teams, which was used mostly in IT, so rolling that out. So not only did we roll out Teams for, web conferencing, we also used Teams as our sort of voice over IP solution, right? So we got rid of most handsets. There are some handset huggers, like server huggers, still left. We're trying to pry away those, analog devices or digital devices to make everything go through Teams. So that was a huge initiative that we had to run. From a curriculum perspective, working really closely with our faculty members. We have a very, very robust digital strategy and innovation team that we partner with to help, build and design our curriculum. So as I said before, right, the curriculum of the future. What does that look like? Millennials or whatever, Gen Z, I forget which generation is the latest generation. They consume learning very differently from what you and I used to do, right? So we're used to go to college, party a lot, and then study some, whatever, right? These days it's all about, what can I do to get a good job? Can I get a micro-credential? How do I, have a badge on LinkedIn? How do I partner with, Google and other companies are getting into the education business. You can get certificates and get jobs through that, so trying to compete with some of that. Data and analytics is key, so we have a pretty robust data and analytics operation, but getting to the next level of sort of predictive analytics, right? Like looking at a student and seeing, is he going to be successful, tracking trends and grades, having sort of intervene when there are issues, right? Have proactive advising, things like that prevents them from dropping out. Obviously, we were hit with significant budget cuts, so that focused a lot on efficiencies. To compound the crisis, we had Snowmageddon, I guess, earlier this year. People in the Midwest, my friends, scoff at 4 inches of snow, but the reality was, we lost power to Denton, where we are. The municipal grid went down, our generators failed, and we were out for a few days, right? So here we are, tier 1 research institution with no web presence or no, you can get on Canvas, but you can authenticate into it because our single sign-on was on-premise, right? So one of the initiatives we kicked off then is looking at cloud-based infrastructure services. So that's ongoing. We're looking at vendors and trying to get that before next February, and if we have another snow event. Also looking at transforming our ERP, so we are on a very legacy PeopleSoft system, trying to get into more of a cloud-based ERP solution to provide better business processes and solutions for our staff, faculty, and students.
I hear a lot of opportunities from Bharath, and also from Urvi, and also from Juhi, right? So I think what is sticking out to me throughout this entire conversation is, disruption and transformation. And thanks to Amazon and also other disruptive startup companies, where the consumers are expecting expecting whatever traditionally the institutions have been offering them. They're expecting that to change and follow how Amazon or eBay or the technology companies provide their services. So do you see, this is a question for all of you. So do you see this paradigm shift is impacting you, and is it a threat, and how are you planning on addressing this?
You take it first? Okay.
Go ahead.
I think the biggest consumer change that happened, I bring Uber into it. I think Amazon was definitely there, and then Uber. I think the biggest change that happened, instead of products, instead of consumer or customer going to a product, these companies said a product can and a product will come to you. Did you all think about getting groceries to your house? Did you all think about getting McDonald's to your house? Right? If you like eating something at a restaurant that's 20 miles away, hey, I'm going to call Uber Eats or similar competitors, and it's going to land into my house the next half an hour later. I'm going to call from work. By the time I get there, it'll get there too, and I have my favorite food, and I don't have to worry about going across the town. That changed consumer behavior. And that change is reflected in every aspect. I want everything on my flexibility, the way I want it. I don't want to do anything, and I need quality. I think, and that's where Amazon came into picture, right? I don't mind as a consumer. I don't mind paying Prime if it's going to get delivered tomorrow. It brought in a brand new concept of people do not mind paying extra for quality and for service. A lot of entrepreneurs, if you haven't banked on this concept, it's there and it's there to stay. I'll let you guys take more. I mean, it's been an interesting journey.
Yes, so flip that, right? In healthcare, we are so far behind. I mean, I can't even talk about the concepts. These are really new. If I had to, as a patient, go to the doctor and get a prescription, I cannot even tell what is the cost for that prescription, right? What is the cost of the drug? Does it need a prior authorization? When I'll find out when I go to the pharmacy, when I'm pulling it, oh no, you need a prior authorization from your payer. These are, in some cases, these are life-critical drugs. So what we are looking at, it is certainly for the patient, but maybe we're way far behind. We're moving the dots to say, okay, can we just move it further so that our patients are educated when they're talking at the time they need that information. There is a cheaper drug in your plan. You should ask a prescriber about it. Educate them. Educate the providers when they're doing it. And at the same time, all the chain. It shouldn't take 2 weeks for prior authorization. I mean, it is sad, but there can be deaths because of that. And that's what it takes on average in the industry. So talk about this overnight delivery and talk about this. We have ways to go.
So it looks like there's definitely opportunity over there to, with the healthcare, lots of opportunities for modernization of, because the data is available and how you use that, right? And across all, from the doctor to...
Can I just add to that?
Yes.
So, that's a really good point. You talked about the data. The data is available in pockets. And there is incentive to not sharing data. Hospital systems want to keep their data to themselves. Even if I sign it, as business, it may not make sense for me to do it. We're just struggling with that in one of the deals. So there is nothing that will make them share. And when they share, it's too late, right? I mean, they will, and there are certain regulations that are really high level. But that's the biggest problem that we have, is not knowing, and it takes, of course, the rest of it is we are slow.
I think, Juhi, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I think another aspect of the data is privacy, right? I mean, there is the good of privacy and there is the bad of privacy. Even with connected vehicles we're talking about, those vehicles carry a lot of data, including your credit card number. There is definitely sensitivity to medical data being shared, but there is also many regulations, and I think US in general, they're coming up. I think Europe is ahead of us here, but US is also coming up with all of those. Hopefully things will become more standardized and make data exchange easier eventually, because there is definitely a need to do it.
Great point, thank you. How about you, Bharath?
Sure, yeah, I mean, regulations, we love them. We have FERPA as well for additional student, data. So in our space, I think I already alluded to this, right? It's that we cater to a wide range of learners, if you will, right? I mean, in today's world, you have to learn or perish, right? I mean, you become obsolete. Starting with the, Gen Z or the latest crop of students to, people who are working and studying part-time to, people who want to go back to work, reskill, upskill. So we're building for just a little bit about our system for those who don't know. So we have our primary campus in Denton, Texas. We have about 42,000 students, and happy to report that our enrollment has actually grown during the pandemic. A lot of other places have shrunk. So we must be doing something right. We also have a health science center in Fort Worth, and then we have a South Dallas campus that caters to a lot of first time in college, low income, kind of a rough neighborhood. We're trying to gentrify that space. And we're building a campus for those who live in the Plano, Frisco area, in Frisco. We have a small presence there. We're expanding to a full-fledged campus. So, trying to do some innovative stuff there with, industry partnerships, and then, project-based learning and things like that, where it's not the traditional degree path of, you do, whatever, 15 semester credit hours, and then, or 18, whatever the number is, and go over 4 years, right? So trying to build out those alternative modes of, gaining education, like I talked about, working on things like badging and credentialing. Also a lot of online-based chunk learning, like podcast type, people consume knowledge in bites, right? Not, large amounts of data. So those are some things.
So it looks like the traditional learning that we all been used to is no longer available. So it's more like a la carte and based on what your personality is, how you want to study and where you want to study.
I mean, it's still available. I think, a lot of kids, including my daughter who will graduate next year, want to go to college for the college experience. So that's never going to go away. It's more of how do you bring in that hybrid modality of learning, I think, is the challenge that we're sort of wrestling with.
Awesome. So, Susan, how are we doing with time?
We're good. You guys have like another 5 minutes?
All right. So, in the interest of time, while we have, I'll give you a couple minutes for each of you just to, kind of your closing thoughts and, where is technology headed, right? And what should we look for? And especially for people who are looking to, students particularly, what kind of opportunities, are going to be available. We cannot predict beyond 2-3 years anymore, right? And so, any thoughts on that? Why don't you go ahead and start with that?
Sure. We all talked about data. I think data is a new digital currency, right? So I think one of the fastest growing programs, and Kinshuk, please stand up or raise your hand so people can start getting students from you for their data scientist openings back there in the third row. So I think anything to do with data, sort of analytics, big data, I think that's a good career option in technology. Obviously AI and ML. So one of the things I did mention was as part of this effort during this online pandemic situation, it was beefing up our chatbots and that kind of technology where you don't have people answering queries from students, where you have a lot of stuff online and you can build that in. So I would say AI and ML is big as well.
And that would also apply to continuous learning, right? People who are looking to move up or change careers, and that's still a good place to be.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of certifications. I think we offer some of those. Obviously, from a methodology perspective, during the software development, trying to be as agile as you can. I think, the old waterfall model exists, but I think you have to be agile and be familiar with those kinds of things. I'd say those are some of the key things that people should look at.
Thank you for those insights, Bharath. How about you, Urvi?
So the way I see the trends in technology, which is super exciting, is one, learn from what is happening around you. And there is so much going on, especially in healthcare. We call it disruptors, we call it, game-changing. But there is a whole lot of innovation going on. So how do you make sure that you, especially I see a lot of entrepreneurs here, maybe you guys are one of the disruptors, but especially from a Cardinal standpoint, from a technology advancement, we're looking at all of this. We're looking at it from the perspective of data, we're looking at it from the perspective of technology and people that we can get, and we're looking at it from the perspective of what solutions we can get that exist already. The second aspect is, we talked a lot about AI/ML, the other one is cloud. We really see everything moving to cloud, if that's not already there. And it is amazing. Larger organizations that have been running on mainframes, and there have been quite a few that are still there and successful. One of them, there is portions of Cardinal that's on mainframe. So how do we move all of that into the new way of doing things without disrupting business? And that's a really big point because it all sounds really great when you look at architecture, which is a good architecture to go to, but when you look at how long it takes to mature technology, you need to make sure that the product and the business is kept front and center as we do it. And I think the last one is going to be around people. The trend, I did talk about Great Resignation, but around people, how do you in this remote environment engage and build high-performing teams? It's just not easy to do that. It's a challenge each one of us are kind of battling with. But that is key as we go forward, not just you, your leadership team, everybody has to be mindful and intentional about how to lead.
Thank you. Those were very, very good points.
If I may, I second the plug for cloud. I think if you are reskilling, AWS, I mean, not to pick a vendor, but AWS certification will keep you employed for a while.
Thank you for that.
Okay, all that Bharath and Urvi said. That's the best part of going last. I think flexibility, as Jason said it, right? Flexibility is here to stay. Consumers who know what they want and insist on doing that is here to stay. Businesses can no longer dictate the terms of this is how I'm going to meet my customer. It's consumer who dictates what they want. Employees who want what they want, that's here to stay. So any skill that lets people work in a flexible environment, any skill that allows for data to go through cloud platforms, many other platforms, whether it's a hybrid platform, whether it's private cloud, security. We didn't mention security here. That's another area from a skill perspective. It's extremely important. As everybody shifts around, as people in the US work for companies in the East, as people in the East work for companies in the US, data is traveling all across. It still needs to stay secure. It still needs to fast travel. So everything, all of those skills are becoming important, even more important day by day. And focus on those skills, especially if students are listening in, those are your skills to focus on.
All right, awesome. Juhi and Urvi and Bharath, thank you so very much for your insights and sharing your experiences and also the challenges that you're currently facing, and also sharing your knowledge and letting this crowd know what's going to be up there in terms of like if you're an entrepreneur, what is that you need to look for, or if you're an individual who's looking to upskill or change your profession, what are the skill sets that you need to be looking into. So I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm assuming you all did so too. And so let's give it a big hand for
thank you, Irfan. Thank you, Chamber of Commerce, for the opportunity.
Yeah, please.
You guys, you talk about
you talk about high performance teams, Urvi, and you're talking about really the servicing the consumer. And you're in education, so bringing out all these talented students. Do you see, with the change of work environment, working from home, do you see companies going to 4-day a week?
4 days or 30?
You mean 4 days off and 1 day off? It's a
Because
possibility.
there's a lot of conversation in corporations that I'm hearing that the people who are working from home or part work, part home work. Do you see that happening in your organizations?
So
I think a lot of us are used to working 4 days a week, 12 hours a day or 15 hours a day, right? So are you referring to like, four days a week, 8 hours a day, 32 hours a week? Because in most of the in the IT industry, it's pretty, a lot of organizations have that flexibility. I don't know about their organizations, but I have worked, 4 days a week, 10 hours a day, 40 hours, so I get Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday off.
So I don't see us going 4 days a week forever, but what we do is in summertime, we do it as just a special to do 4 days a week, and every other week Friday off, or we give a choice, but then you'll have to work longer days. So yeah, that's just for summer.
We're similar. We have flexible work arrangements. You can do your 40 hours in 4 days and not work 1 day of the week. I think I read an article that the UAE is proposing a 4.5-day work week.
Germany already.
Australia,
Europe has a lot of 4-day
right.
weeks.
I think we Americans just work too hard, so we don't know how to...
In Europe, while they were 5 days, they never worked for 5 days. They always work for 4.
But I work with large Fortune 500 companies, and that's one of the conversations that usually comes up. Are the Fortune 500 companies going to go for a 4-day-a-week program? Because most of them want people to come back to work. Talking about productivity, working from home, does that get impacted?
So higher ed, I don't see it because, our students are there all the time, even on weekends, so I doubt that we'll ever go to a full-time 4-day-a-week model.
I do think it does get impacted. We tried it for a bit, and it was interesting. Some teams did really well, some didn't. And I think overall, from a leadership perspective, there is always 4 days was not cutting it. There are issues that come in, and we already know that Saturday, Sunday is out. So yeah, we did not see that as being successful.
I think flexibility has many faces. 4 days a week is another phase. It all boils down to how do you ensure the productivity, the performance standards. Can you create those performance standards? Can you enable your supervisors and managers to ensure that they are driving the teams to that excellence to get what needs done? Ultimately, that's what boils down to. If anybody can solve that problem, they can solve it with different phases of flexibility. This being one of them, could be others as well.
And we all support technology. Systems don't take the weekend off or Friday off unless we come up with fully automated, self-learning, and whatever systems.
Isn't that the truth?
In IT, that's going to be hard.
Okay, all right.